I didn't mean to send the letter. Hell, I wasn't even sure who I was writing to, just some desperate midnight scrawl, a confession sealed in a whisper and tossed at the world like a bottle in the ocean. I thought it'd vanish, be ignored. Instead, it ended up in the hands of a billionaire. And that's when everything broke open, my past, his secrets, and a war neither of us were supposed to survive. It started with a mistake. Or maybe not a mistake exactly, more like desperation with postage. I was at the bottom, the kind where the floor is soggy and the walls whisper failure. Lost my job at the auto body shop, 2 months behind on rent, eating cereal with water because milk was a luxury. I didn't have anyone to call, and even if I did, I was done asking for favors. My pride, though battered, was the only thing I still had on a leash. That night, I sat in the kitchen of my one-bedroom mistake of an apartment, knees to my chest, and wrote a letter. Not a resume. Not a suicide note. Just a plea. To nobody specific. Just to whoever might care. I told the truth. That I was done pretending. That the world felt like it had chewed me up and spat me out somewhere between obscurity and oblivion. That I still wanted to believe in good things, but my grip was slipping. I folded it. Stuffed it in an envelope. Scribbled urgent and an address I remembered from an old TV interview, a foundation in Manhattan that claimed to change lives. I had no stamps, so I slipped it in a mailbox anyway. Maybe it would find somewhere it belonged. Then I forgot about it. 3 days later, a black car showed up at my door. Sleek. Tinted windows. Clean enough to shame the entire neighborhood. I thought it was a repo guy or some collector that grew a conscience. The driver didn't speak, just held out an envelope with my name on it. No return address. No smile. Inside was a single line. I received your letter. Meet me. Noon. Tomorrow. No signature. I should have ignored it. Should have burned it, blocked the number, whatever. But when your world is already on fire, you don't worry about matches. So I went. The address led me downtown, way past where I usually wander, where buildings start kissing the clouds and everyone smells like a raise. I felt out of place just walking through the lobby. Security didn't ask for my name. They already knew it. Elevator to the 77th floor. Walls of polished metal. Music soft enough to be judgmental. When the doors opened, I half expected to be greeted by some corporate ghoul in a three-piece suit and a fake smile. Instead, I found a man sitting alone at a window desk the size of my entire apartment. He didn't look up. Eli Mercer, he said, like he was reading it off a ghost. You wrote a letter. You read it. He slid a finger over a tablet without turning around. I receive thousands of letters a week. Yours was the first in years that didn't ask for something. It asked to matter. I felt my throat close. He finally turned. White hair, silver-framed glasses, and the kind of calm that made the room colder. My name is Vincent Langford. That meant nothing to me. You own this place? I asked. He smirked. I own this floor. And the 40 below it. I blinked. I still didn't get it. You sent a letter, he continued, to the Langford Foundation. It was misrouted. Should have ended up in the marketing pile. Instead, it landed on my desk. Right when I needed it most. He stood, walked with a limp, left leg dragging slightly like he'd learned to live with pain but not forget it. I want to make you a proposition, he said. But not here. Where then? He grinned. Somewhere honest. He didn't give me a choice. We were in his car within 5 minutes, him, me, and a driver built like a bulldozer in a tuxedo. Nobody said a word as we left the city. I thought maybe he was taking me to a private airport or some lakeside mansion with wine walls and marble floors. I couldn't have been more wrong. We pulled up to a rundown farmhouse. Paint peeling. Porch sagging. But the air? It smelled like trees. Real ones. Like earth and endings. He led me inside without a word. The walls were covered in photos. Not art pictures. Actual photos. Polaroids. Printed memories. Faces I didn't recognize. Kids. Veterans. Nurses. A woman in a wedding dress holding Vincent's hand. My wife, he said, touching the photo. Cancer. Took her fast. I didn't know what to say. She made me promise to do one good thing before I died, he said. One real thing. No money. No contracts. Just a difference. He turned to me. Your letter? That was my sign. I shook my head. You think helping me checks that box? He smiled, sad and soft. No, Eli. I think helping you start over is the box. He handed me another envelope. Inside? A set of keys. A bank card. A file. You have 48 hours to say yes. This isn't charity. It's an investment. I want to see what happens when someone good gets one more chance. I stared at him. Why me? He looked back at the wedding photo. Because everyone else has already tried to be someone. You're the first who just wanted to be something. And just like that, he walked away. I spent that night in a motel off Route 19. Shower barely worked, and the walls were so thin I could hear the guy in the next room trying to sell insurance over speakerphone at midnight. But I couldn't sleep. The envelope sat on the cracked dresser like a dare. Inside the file, a new ID with my name and a new address in Vermont. A debit card with no bank logo already loaded with $25,000. A lease agreement for a cabin in the woods. A note written in Vincent's handwriting, "You owe me nothing. Just don't waste it." 48 hours, he said. But I already knew my answer. By dawn, I was driving north in a rental car I hadn't paid for. It felt like stealing from my old life and paying forward to a new one. Cold air rolled in through the cracked window. Trees started replacing traffic lights. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running. I felt like I was being pulled towards something. The cabin sat at the edge of a forest so quiet it made my bones ache. 1 bedroom. Wood stove. A lake that looked like glass. There was even a dog bowl out front, like the universe was telling me I needed company. Inside, the fridge was stocked. The bed was made. A laptop waited on the desk, blinking like it had a mission. And taped to the screen? "Start when you're ready. V." Turns out Vincent hadn't just given me a cabin. He'd given me a job. Every morning, I logged into a system called Seedline, a non-profit shell built by Vincent decades ago, hidden behind firewalls and phony LLCs. It tracked applications for financial aid, small loans, rehab sponsorships, people hanging by threads. My job was to read them, sort them, decide who got helped. The money came from Vincent's quiet fund. Millions moved in silence to people who never knew his name. Now he wanted me to run it. First case. A woman in Ohio trying to leave her abusive boyfriend with 2 kids and no car. I wired her $3,000. No explanation. No strings. Just enough to get her out. Second case. A teenager in Fresno who needed $400 for a community college course so he could get his high school diploma. Approved. Sent. Day by day, it became more than a job. It became ritual. A slow healing confession. Every name was a version of me, lost, cornered, trying not to disappear. But not everything healed so easily. 3 weeks in, I noticed something strange. A rejected application I didn't remember touching. Logged by me. Timestamped for 2:14 a.m. Except I hadn't been awake then. I checked the system logs. Remote access from an IP I didn't recognize. I ran a trace. Blocked. Encrypted. But they'd been in the system. Someone was watching. I called Vincent. The call didn't go through. So I sent a message. Got one back. Just one line. "Do not trust anyone asking questions. And stay off the grid. I'll explain soon." That's when I realized. This wasn't a gift. It was a test. And someone didn't want me to pass. The first real sign something was wrong came 3 days after the hacked log. I heard a car engine just past midnight. I killed the lights, crept to the window. Headlights blinked between the trees. Then cut out. A black SUV. No plates. No movement. Just parked there like it was waiting to see what I'd do. I stayed awake with a hammer in one hand and a steak knife in the other. Slept maybe 20 minutes total, sitting upright in a chair by the door. By morning, the SUV was gone. But the feeling wasn't. That afternoon, I drove into town. Just to breathe other people's air. Locals nodded like I'd been here forever. The barista at the coffee shop remembered I liked my coffee black and too hot. But when I went to use the debit card from Vincent, it got declined. Twice. I called the number on the back. Got static. Then a voice I didn't recognize. "This line is no longer secure." Click. That night, a box showed up on the front step. No postage. No tape. Just cardboard and dread. Inside, a Polaroid of me from 2 nights ago, standing on the back deck with my mug in hand. I playing card, the king of spades. And a note, "We see what you fix. You don't get to fix it anymore." I burned the box. Then packed a bag. I needed answers. And the only person who had them was Vincent Langford. I drove 9 hours to his address in New York. Avoided highways. Took back roads where no one checked plates and deer outnumbered people. When I got there, I expected cameras, gates, security. What I found was worse. Nothing. His condo was empty. Furniture gone. Mail piling up in the box. The building manager said he moved out a week ago. No forwarding address. No notice. Just vanished. That night, I went back to the motel where we first met. I asked the manager if he remembered the guy with white hair. "Vincent," he said. "Haven't seen him in a while." Shame, what happened? I froze. What happened? You didn't hear? They found him in a river. Police said stroke or heart attack. Natural causes. Natural causes, my ass. Vincent was too careful. Too prepared. I asked to see the guest book. The day before he died, he signed in under the name E. Gray. Same handwriting. Room 209. I broke into it. Nothing inside but a half-empty bottle of bourbon and a Bible with 2 pages dog-eared. Psalms. Both passages about betrayal. In the back cover, scrawled in pen. Check the chapel. If you're reading this, it's already started. The chapel was 10 miles outside of town. One of those roadside things with a tin roof and a tilted steeple. I went after dark. Left the car down the road, walked in silence. It smelled like dust and old wood and forgotten promises. Inside the pulpit, hidden behind the hymnals, I found a flash drive. Plugged it into my laptop right there on the altar. Files. Dozens. Emails between Vincent and someone named NK dated months back. Topics. Diversions in seedline funds. Unknown third party manipulating approval logs. Suspect tied to private firm Blackthorn Intelligence. Then audio files. I clicked one. Vincent's voice shaky. If anything happens to me, Eli, it's not just about money. Seedline has been laundering clean. Someone is hijacking it. Using the fund as a smokescreen. I think it's Blackthorn. But they've got reach judges, media, even police. If you're hearing this, you're already on their radar. A new name blinked in a hidden file folder. Nora Kane, former Seedline accountant. Whistleblower. Missing since 2018. That's when I realized. I wasn't alone in this. I was just next. Nora Kane. It rolled around in my head like a marble in a washing machine all the way back to Vermont. Vincent's flash drive gave me just enough to chase, but not enough to catch. A missing accountant who vanished after digging too deep into Seedline. A trail that ended cold until I cracked open a file called Last Trace. Inside, a photo. Grainy zoomed, but definitely her. Brown ponytail, tan jacket, sitting on a park bench in a city I recognized immediately: Boston. My old stomping grounds. Date stamped 2 months ago. She was alive. I packed up what I had: flash drive, laptop, burner phone, and left the cabin for good. No note. No trace. I doubled back through backroads and slept in rest stops. Every shadow looked like a tale. Every silence felt like breathing behind a door. When I reached Boston, I followed the thread from the image. Tracked it through traffic cams, parking records, and eventually a library computer terminal she'd logged into using the name K. Norelli. Cute. She was careful. Smart. The trail led to a safe house on the outskirts of Southie, top floor of an old textile building converted into apartments nobody advertised. I didn't go in loud. I waited. Hung around the bodega across the street for 3 hours pretending to shop for jerky and bad coffee until I saw her step out. She looked older than the photo. Tired. Thinner. But her eyes, they were alive. Watching everything. She clocked me from across the street. Didn't run. Didn't wave. Just turned, walked back upstairs. Left her door open a crack. Invitation or trap, I didn't care. I followed. Inside, she had maps pinned to walls. Threads running between cities. Bank codes. Offshore accounts. Names. Mine included. You're Eli Mercer, she said, not turning around. You're Nora Kane, I replied. She sighed. Guess we're both really bad at staying dead. She poured 2 cups of coffee like we were old war buddies. No milk, no sugar, just burnt and bitter and perfect. I worked for Seedline until 2018, she said. Vincent trusted me. But I found discrepancies in the fund disbursements, money routed through phony nonprofits, re-emerging in Blackthorn-owned accounts. When I brought it up, I got doxxed, hacked, and nearly pushed in front of a train 2 days later. That's when you disappeared. She nodded. Went underground. Vincent stayed in touch until a year ago. Said he was building a way to fight back. Then silence. I slid her the flash drive. She plugged it in. Browsed in silence. Then she froze. This folder, she whispered. I sent this to him. Her hands trembled. These are the offshore registries tied to someone high-level inside Blackthorn. I leaned closer. Who? She hesitated. Then clicked a folder labeled Severance. Inside were scanned forms. Contracts. Payout logs. And one name. Charles Ashcroft. Executive Director, Seedline Foundation. Vincent's right-hand man. I thought he was loyal, I said. So did Vincent, Nora replied. But this shows he sold control of the Seedline backend to Blackthorn years ago. Quietly. Legally. Buried in Clause 39 of a software handoff. He sold the platform? No, she said grimly. He sold the people. We both sat in silence for a while. Long enough for the world to shift under us. Then Nora asked, you ready to make this public? I am, I said. But we need proof that can't be buried. Then we need to take it from the inside, she said. I know where Ashcroft lives. And I know what he's hiding in his private server. You sure? She nodded. Because I built it. We left that night. No backup. No plan B. Just 2 ghosts walking toward a fire we didn't start. Charles Ashcroft's mansion sat on a private hilltop in New Hampshire, surrounded by fog and lies. It looked like a monastery that gave up on faith and bet everything on security instead. Motion lights. Cameras disguised as birdhouses. It's that hummed when you got too close. We parked a mile out and approached on foot. Nora had blueprints. I had adrenaline. Between us, we had maybe half a plan and one bad flashlight. There's a blind spot here, she whispered, pointing to a stretch of ivy-covered brick along the side. Maintenance access. I used to come in through this when I worked tech support during the early build. You were on site? Briefly. Long enough to map the servers in my head. Long enough to hate myself for helping build the monster. She pulled a crowbar from her backpack like it was a toothbrush. I liked her more in that moment than I had anyone in years. We were in within 6 minutes. The place reeked of wealth and paranoia. Quiet halls, museum lighting, and enough glass furniture to make the whole place feel like it was daring you to trip. We stayed low. Moved quick. Security was minimal. Ashcroft trusted tech more than people. Server rooms below, she whispered. Past the wine cellar. Because of course. We hit the basement and there it was cool, humming, glowing blue in the dark like something alive. The servers lined the room like bookshelves filled with sins. Nora went to work. I watched the door, heart pounding, every creak in the floor above us sounding like judgment. We get this out, she muttered, and we're not just exposing Blackthorn. We're implicating banks, foundations, foreign governments. What kind of data is it? Everything Seedline touched in the last 10 years, applicants, donations, diversions, reroutes. There are real names, real faces, and a map of who benefited and who bled. Then the lights went red. An alarm didn't blare, it clicked. Sharp. Like a stopwatch starting. We're burned, I said. No, Nora snapped. He triggered a tripwire failsafe if someone accessed this server. We've got maybe 4 minutes before it auto-wipes everything. She yanked a drive from her pack. Plugged it in. You still have that key Vincent gave you? She asked. I reached into my boot, pulled out the old silver USB with the scratched V on one side. This one. She nodded. It's the override. I slammed it into the port. The screen flickered, then cleared. A progress bar began crawling. 3 minutes, she said. Maybe. That's when we heard the elevator. Ashcroft didn't yell. Didn't storm in with goons. He stepped in calmly in a white shirt and gray slacks like he was hosting a dinner party. I wondered who'd come for this, he said, voice calm and venomous. Didn't think it would be the accountant and the letter boy. Nice to be underestimated, I replied. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed. I gave you purpose, Eli, he said. You could have had a clean life. Peace. All you had to do was stop digging. You built a charity on suffering, I said. You turned hope into collateral. He nodded almost proudly. And yet it worked. Until Vincent started sending letters. He turned to Nora. And you, how many lives do you think you've ruined by running? You should have stayed buried. She raised a canister from her bag, one of those old-school thermobaric flashbangs that don't scream or blind, just burn out circuits. Guess I learned something from being buried, she said. She tossed it. We hit the floor. Everything sparked. The lights died. The servers popped like fireworks. Ashcroft screamed just once, short and startled, then vanished into the smoke. We grabbed the drive. Ran. By the time we made it outside, the fire alarms had woken the whole damn hill. We drove through a back trail, ditched the car on a logging road, and hiked until we found a roadhouse motel that still took cash and didn't ask for ID. Nora slumped onto the bed. I hit the floor with my back against the wall and stared at the drive. This is it, she said, voice hoarse. Proof. All of it. I nodded, but I couldn't stop shaking. Because now we weren't chasing truth. We were sitting on it. And everyone who'd built their empires on silence? They were coming. Hard. We didn't sleep that night. Just sat there in that busted motel room with peeling paint and a view of the dumpster, watching the download bar finish like it might explode when it hit 100%. By morning, we had the full archive decrypted. Nora's hands shook when she scrolled through the folders. Jesus, she whispered. It's worse than I thought. Blackthorn hadn't just used Seedline to launder money. They'd weaponized it. People who applied for aid and got denied? Some weren't unlucky, they were flagged. For political dissent. For being whistleblowers. For being inconvenient. They were watched. Harassed. In some cases, disappeared. This isn't a scandal, I said, my voice a dry rasp. It's a war crime. We had names. Internal memos. Video calls. Bank transfers. Correspondence between Ashcroft and senators, lobbyists, even journalists paid to bury stories. Vincent must have known. That's why he picked me. Not because I was strong or smart, but because I wasn't in the game. Not yet. I wasn't compromised. And now I was the only one who could finish what he started. We go public, Nora said. Full drop. No embargoes. We send it to everyone at once, the Times, ProPublica, every damn watchdog from here to Reykjavik. And then what? She looked at me. Then we run. But I didn't want to run anymore. I called a contact an old fixer Vincent had mentioned in one of his encrypted logs. Guy named Price. Ex-Intel, now a digital bloodhound with a grudge against big money. He picked up after one ring. Langford's boy, he said. Took you long enough? You still want to burn Blackthorn? He laughed. All day, every day. We sent him the archive. Within 2 hours, major outlets were lighting up. By sundown, hashtags were trending. And by midnight? Arrests. Dozens. Interpol. FBI. Even internal corporate security teams turned on themselves once the video calls went public. Ashcroft vanished off the grid. Blackthorn's accounts were frozen. Seedline's front sites were seized. They tried to spin it. Claimed we were hackers. Thieves. Political agents. Didn't stick. Because Vincent had one last gift we hadn't opened yet. A video. Him sitting in that farmhouse. Calm. Tired. Honest. If you're watching this, he said, then I failed. But Eli didn't. Nora didn't. This system was broken long before we tried to fix it. We just didn't want it to stay that way. It played everywhere. YouTube. MSNBC. Some TikToker even set it to music. Vincent Langford, posthumous prophet. They made murals of his face in cities he'd never visited. And me? They tried to make me a symbol. But I wasn't interested in being one. I disappeared again. This time, not out of fear. Out of purpose. Nora and I split after the dust settled. She moved to Canada, started a digital ethics nonprofit. We still talk. Sometimes too long. Sometimes not enough. As for me, I bought a new cabin. Different state. Different name. But I kept the letter. The one I wrote that started all this. It's framed now. Not because I'm proud of what it said, but because of what came after. And I still get letters. Some arrive folded in old envelopes. Some are emails from strangers who somehow found the trail. Some are just notes scribbled on napkins left outside a bookstore I secretly fund. And every now and then, when the wind's right and I'm feeling brave, I pick one. Just one. And I help. No return address. No credit. Just the echo of Vincent's words ringing in my head like a prayer. Don't let them convince you otherwise. Because I've learned something. A quiet man with a letter? He can change everything.